Shalom Avracha, good morning, Mora of Rabosai. Let's start today. We're turning to the Heilige Tour in Orach Chaim Simatov Reish Chafei, the very outside of HaSukkos. So the tour begins, the son of the Rosh, and Arba Turim, by citing the Posuk in Emra B'Sukkos Teisha Shuvas Yom L'man Yedu Dorosechem Yesugos O Shafti Es B'nei Sotzia Samet Srayim. So the famous tour talks about how Tola Kasim Mitzvah Sukkah and Yetzias Mitzrayim Mechein Harbe Mitzvahs V'chulei, and what type of Sukkahs are we referring to? Writes the tour, HaSukkos Shomer HaKosher Shoshivani Bahem Hein Anoni HaKovid. We're talking about those magical, mystical clouds of glory Shekifanu Bahem L'Ba'al Yakos and Ashra B'Shemesh, to shield and protect us from the sun, the heat waves. V'dugmal Zev V'chulei. Ayin Darichas in the tour. So the Bach, the base, everyone's bothered. What's going on here in the tour? The tour is a posek. He gives us straight out clear halacha, and yet the tour, if you see, is marich in the drush, that when you're sitting in the sukkah, you have to be thinking about how the Eibishter took us out in Mitzrayim, and he took us out with Anani HaKavod, and they accompanied us and shielded us from the Shemesh, the Sharav. And what's going on over here? The tour, you're a posek. Why are you giving me mili de agadata, mili de drush? Ella writes the Bach, because of Laman Yedu, the Torah said Goshem Yuchedes, as it does in conjunction with only a few mitzvahs. Over here is one of those cases. State and Torah Kadosh Man Yedu Dorosechem. What's Man Yedu? You have to know. What does it mean? You have to know. It means if you don't understand the very reason why you're sitting in a sukkah, then it's kilu evenly kuva, without getting into the whole Bikura Yaakov, the Ochaner, as a whole big deal. And is this machshov a ma'akev, is a non-ma'akev? But kuliyam amodi lechachilo, when you're sitting in the sukkah, you're thinking what? Right? Tabach, you're thinking because of Lavan Yedud, you got to know why you're sitting in the sukkah. You can't just stop. I do a ma'aseh mitzvah, there's a machlokes, mitzvah srichas kavana, not srichas kavana. A Beis Yosef, the Raisis is ma'akev, the Rabbanan is not ma'akev, without getting into the whole shtickle Torah in the Sugyas Shas about mitzvah srichas or ain't srichas kamana. But over here, because of the man yedu, writes the Bach Kulei Amamodi, everybody agrees. When you're sitting in a sukkah, you have to form that etzem maisa of yeshiva b'sukkah. What does it mean I'm sitting in a sukkah? It means I have to know why I'm sitting in a sukkah. And what's it all about? It's about Anani HaKavod. Whose sheet is that? We turn to the first parak in Masechah Sukkah, the bottom of Yud Aleph from a base, and we have the machlokes, the hayedua of Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva. I and Rabbi Shai pick in the Gilyon, I in the Maratzias, in terms of various nuschos who are really the Baal Memra matched up with the wood statement. But the way we have it in Unzur Shas and Shas Bavli, Rabbi Akiva says Sukkah mamish. Rabbi Eliezer espouses the opinion that no, it's a reference to the Anani HaKavod. I in the Ramban, I in the Kli Yakar. Ado Lavush even says, I don't understand the Madiedo, Sukkah mamish. What do we come out? What nace was there in Sukkah mamish? Lavush says, Avada, we have to pass in Rabbi Eliezer, and that's the Ramban, Rashi, Matlis Anani, based on the Targum, that Avada, the Pshuto Shemikra, is a reference to Anani HaKavod and not to Sukkah mamish. Shakopana, we have two shitas in the Gemara, and Kayadua, Elu ve'elu divlakim chayim. I say, how are they mamish both true? Well, let's pause for but a moment. We have a chayodom l'mashal, writes the chayodom, one of the gedolei poskim, mechutanov the heilige gra, writes the chayodom and klal kuf mem vav. They're both true. We had two types of sukkahs. Tahainu, during our sojourn in the desert, we were enveloped by those mystical, magical clouds, the Anani HaKavod. But after, when we laid siege on Sichon and Og, that's still called, based on the Rokach Nashas Yetzias Mitzrayim, until we conquered Eretz Yisrael, so it still stims with the Psukim, but that's when we set up Sukkah's Mamish. So we had Anani HaKavod until one point in time, and then it went to Sukkah's Mamish. That's a Chayodim and Klal Kuf Mem Vav. Then it's Siv. L'chayra, very Mustaver, writes from Naphtali to Yehuda Berlin, both in his Hemek Dover and Parshas Balaischa, and Sefer B'Mimar Paragir Posig Lamadalit, as well as in Merome Sodeh, his Givaldige set on Shas, the beginning of Masechah Sukkah, Beis Amud Beis, writes in Etziv, Eilu ve'lo dilkim chaim, they're both true. Tahainu b'Shas, the actual Nesiyah, when Klal Yisrael were traveling, that's when we were protected, shielded by the Anani HaKavod. But b'Shas Chaniyos, and that's Shitas Rabbi Akiva, b'Shas Chaniyos, when we set up at the tents at night, those were the huts, those were the Sukkahs mamish. So Ramazah says, what do you turn the spotlight on the Anani HaKavod? Rabbi Akiva says, no, the Sukkahs mamish. I said, what's the Indian of the nation? The Levush's Kasha. So again, there are many different terutzim. Now, for now, Hakoponim, we have two types of sukkahs. Chayodim even says they're both rumas in our posuk. One time you have sukkahs chaser and parshas Emor, and then you have sukkahs mole. One's a reference to the sukkahs mamish, and one's a reference to ananei kavod, this sukkah mole. Perhaps based on this idea of Sayyid the Chayodim, Sayyid the Netziv, we can answer up the kasha of the Smichas Chachamim, the kasha of the Bnei Yisachar. In the end of the day, if it's called in the Lashon HaTorah, Chag HaSukkos, still it's Lashon Rabbi. So why is it Maseches Sukkah? I understand it's called Maseches Rosh Hashanah. Talks about the end of Rosh Hashanah. I understand it's called Maseches Yuma, which in the Geras Shiragon and the Rashba and others, they call Maseches Yom Kippurim. We call it Yuma, writes the Bnei Yisachar and Devar Nechmadim, because we can't even put a name on it. The day is so profound, it's so deep, it's so mystical, it's so Lamaylam and Atzeva, writes the Bnei Yisachar, you can't even call it Maseches Yom Kippur. What do we call it? Maseches Yom in Aramaic, even the day. And Maseches Yuma. But Akaponim, it's Yuma, it's Yom Kippurim. Why is this called Maseches Sukkah? Frek the Smichas Chachamim. For Naftali Kohen Tzedek. Frek the Bnei Yisachar. So we have the Ramazim Sukkahs Gematria 91, Gematria Havaya Nana 65 and 26, Gematria Heichal Hashem. Many different Ramazim. But the Feiner Daiti, just push it. Why is it called Maseches Sukkah? Because the reason it's called Sukkahs, l'chara, is because we had two types of Sukkahs, like the Chayonim, like the Netziv. We had a Sukkah of B'shas Chaniyos and the Sukkahs Mamish Aliba Rabbi Akiva, and we had the Sukkahs of Ananei Kavod Keneged the Rebbe Lezer Shita. So we had two types of Sukkahs, Chag HaSukkos, Ta'as HaLacha. We have both types of Sukkahs, but the Masechta doesn't deal. We don't have laws pertaining to Ananei Kavod. The Masechta, practical Halach L'maaseh, deals with what? Maseches Sukkah. It only deals with the Sukkah. Feiner Daiti. Now Maseches Sukkos. The Yontav is called Sukkah. It's not called the Yontav of Sukkah. It's called Maseches Rosh Hashanah. Deals with the Yontav of Rosh Hashanah. Maseches Yom Kippur. Or Maseches Yuma, because it's dealing with the day. Over here, call it Maseches Sukkos. It's not called Maseches Sukkos. It's called Maseches Sukkah. Because in the end of the day, we're not dealing with the Sukkah of Ananei Kavod and the Sukkah of Sukkahs Mamish, Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Akiva. We're dealing solely, exclusively with the Sukkah of practical Lamaisa. How do you build a Sukkah? What are the parameters? What are the myriad halachas pertaining to the Yitzhak Maisa Yeshiva B'Sukkah? That's Maseches Sukkah. That's why it's called Sukkah Lashon Yochid. And now it's Sukkah Lashon Rabbi. Adkan. Meila. Let's go back to the Bach. The Bach told us that because Laman Yedid or Sechem, that's why the Tur, who normally, typically is a posek. Why is he Marach immediately to Drush? Because over here he's telling me Machmas, this extra addition. The Akpodi Yisera of Laman Yedid, you gotta know. That means you have to be Kaveya. You're at some Maisa Yeshiva B'Sukkah. You have to know, why am I sitting in a Sukkah? Excuse me, you know the reason we're sitting in a Sukkah? B'shas the Maisa Yeshiva B'Sukkah, you have to know why you're sitting in a Sukkah. It's not stam hard. You're sitting and you're thinking Shitas Rabbi Elazar, you're thinking Ananei Kavod, the Ramban, the Klei Yakar, the Targum, that's what you're thinking Shitas Elazar, and that's the way the Torah paskins, Ein the Bach, and the other Nosei Kalim. So in the end of the day, I'm thinking Ananei Kavod, and I'm not thinking Sukkahs Mamish. Yes, Chayodim Netziv, but the Ikar Nakud is, I'm thinking Ananei Kavod. Let me ask you a question, Rabbi Sai. We mentioned it before, but the Torah writes, back in Ilchos Rosh Chodesh Nochaim Simon Yad Zayin, the Gron Madur Tzli Hersli Aparshas Balak, the father of the Shlah, and Eimak Brocha, and Ayin also the Shem Yishmael Svasamas Tzaddik, and so many others, matching up the Gimelavas to the Gimel Regalim. V'schus Avram Avinu, sir, the Ma'aseh Achnos Sorchem, the outside of Vayera. We have the end of a Pesach. Yitzchak, they blew from the shofar. And many other has Beirib, and Yaakov's Keneged Sukkos. Why? State in the Torah and the Gra, the Torah in the name of his brother, Rabbi Yehuda, because HaSukkos. He made huts for his animals. In the Torah, Hilchos Rosh Chodesh. So Rabbi, so let me ask you two questions. Number one, why is the Bach? Why are they all silent back in Hilchos Rosh Chodesh? Ask a similar style question. The Torah, you're a posek. If you're a posek, what are you telling me? Mila de Drush. You're giving me halacha work. The Arba Turim. I need to know the Gimel Avos correspond to 3 regalim. Leave that for the world of Sifrei Machshava, of Sifrei Chasidus. Let that be in the world of the Gra and Rav Tzadok and the Maral and all the other Heiligos from Shem Yishmael Sasem. So, in the end of the day, Turya Paskani Halacha. What do we need to know? Yaakov Avinu's Keneged Sukkos. Kasha number 1. Kasha number 2, more fundamental. L'chayra Tzapela. Here we have the Bach and other Gedolei Achonim telling me that the Torah is Marach in the beginning of Sukkah Tafresh Chafei. La Fuki Shitas Rabbi Akiva. I don't want you to be thinking Sukkah's Mamish. The man Yedu is, you have to know, Sukkah's or Shafti, the neighbors to put us on an air covet. That means, what am I thinking about? I'm thinking about an air covet, an air covet. That's what I'm thinking about. Oh, and by the way, Tur, the Sheet Tascha. So why do I have the Yontiv of Sukkos? Well, you're the one to tell me back in Echos Chodesh that I had the Yontiv of Sukkos b'schos Yaakovino. Why? Nothing to do with Hananeh Kavod, because Ulumekaneo also Sukkos, he fashioned a plain old simple tent for his livestock, for his cattle, for his son, a bunkar. Ulumekaneo also Sukkos. So I don't understand. Tur, and based on the Bach, you're going in Marich Walafuke that it's not Sukkos Mamish. It's really Sukkos. You have to be thinking Hananeh Kavod, and it's Mamish Likuva. Otherwise, you didn't form your Etza Maisi. You weren't Kaveya, the Etza Maisi Yeshiva B'Sukkah. You have to know it's all Keneged and Aneh Kavod. And yet, why do I have the whole Yontiv to begin with? Because Yaakov Avinu made Sukkah's Mamish for his huts. What's going on? This is a Pelatz Pliatzuma. Phineas 19, the Pshat is as follows. In my humble opinion, perhaps this is what's going on over here. The Eibishter Avada, the Torah is telling us, Aliba the Bach, especially when you're sitting in a sukkah, you think an Aneh Kavod. Eibishter Gevaldik, he gave us what an Aneh Kavod, and why writes the Torah? Labal Yaakov Sanu Shraf V'Shemesh. We shouldn't be stricken by the heat waves, the sun. It should shield us. It's a Pella. Let's go to Bnei Yisachar has his own terutzim, but let's go to the Chidah. The Chidah in his Sefer of Drashas, Rosh Daven, and Parshas Emor. He asks the Kasha and he gives 3 different answers. Bnei Yisachar has his own answers, as do many other Svarim. Frek the Chidah, the famous Kasha, Tainus Tav Tesam and Al B'Schus, the Gimel Parnasei Hador. Moshe Rabbeinu, Aaron, and Miriam, we got Gimel Matanas Tovas. That's why we mentioned the Gematria in the past, that Gimel Parnasim Tovim is Gematria 510. Gimel Parnasim Tovim gave us respectively the Mon, the Be'er, and Anoneh Kavod Gematria B'Diuk 510. Akopanim, we have the Mon B'Schus Moshe. We have the and then they're covered b'schus Aaron Cohen, and they perish Miriam b'schus Miriam, of course. Sefrek the Chida, Frek the Meis Hascha, and so many others. Why did the Torah Kedosha go out of its way to tell us as a Chi of the Raisa to commemorate something Keneged the Anoneh Kavod, but there's no Chi of the Raisa to commemorate the Mon? Yeah, we have La Commission and other in Yonim, the Rabbanan Dik and Yonim, and Menhagim V'chulei Keneged the Ber Miriam. There's a Ramah based on a Kobo. We have different in Yonim, but on a Deraisa Dika level, there's no mitzvah Deraisa to do Keneged the Mon. There's no mitzvah Deraisa to do, to perform Keneged Be'erish Miriam, and yet Frek the Chidot the Bnei Yisachar, there's a mitzvah Deraisa to commemorate the Anoneh Kavod. Why? Why did Anoneh Kavod stand out? Writes the Chidot, and one of his 3 terutzim Rosh David Rosh Parshas Emor B'Shem Rav Chaim Kasufi. Zok the Eligel Chida. Chaim Yosef David was like quoting Chaim Kasufi, because the Mon and the Bear, granted they were miraculous in nature, they were Lamaylam Natzefa, but Lamaisa, what are they essentially? They address the staples of our existence. Abishter promised us, I'm going to take you out of Mitzrayim and keep you alive. You got to give us bread to eat and you got to give us water to drink. It was a miraculous bread, heavenly manna, Mon Yori Min Hashemayim, Alechem Shemalach Shari Sochel Mai, and the whole Sugan Yuma. Givaldik, so that's the Mon. It's special, but it's bread to keep us alive. Nonetheless, and the Beresh Miriam is Gavaldik, that Tzemach David quotes, as do others, that we had the same miraculous nature. The Mon was right there in the Beresh Miriam, and he drank conceivable, it was miraculous water. But so, it was water. You want to keep us alive, you got to give us the staples of our existence, the basic essentials. And that was the Mon. And that doesn't show the Chibi Yisera, but writes a Chaim Kasufi, when you give us Anoneh Kavod to protect us from the Shemesh and the Shrub, to give us a portable air conditioner service, a portable laundry dry cleaning service. Our clothes grew miraculously on us, and you gave us this air conditioning system in the middle of the desert. protecting and shielding us from the heat wave, from the sun. Eibishter, it's a gewaldige gift. Hashem didn't need to do that to keep us alive. That's Megala Lechi B'Yasera that the Eibishter has to klai. So I'm going to go out of my way, Lefinim Mishor Sedin, and I'm going to give you something, Ach V'Rak, to show the special chiba and the ava that I have for you, my dear precious klai. So Haben Yaakov Li Ephraim, Ayela Chashuama, the children of my delight. Those are the ones I show the chiba Seira. So Ad Kan Rechaim Kesufi. So now let's piggyback on that yesod. And the end of the day, Rabbi says, so the morning bear were essentially what? To address the basic staples of our existence. Why then on a cover to go the show chibis? Why? What did we do? Where was the Mida Keneged Mida that the Eibishter says, I'm going to go and show them the Chiva Yasera? Feiner and Staiti, we turn back the pages to Parshas Vayishlach. Yaakov Avinu, the Bechir Shabbavis. Frag Dor Chaim HaKadosh, the Yaakov HaSukkos, he went to a place that was called Sukkah. Why was the place? If the Torah is telling us, remember, Rabbi say any place that's mentioned in the Torah, there's a lot of profundity, there's a lot of significance. The Torah doesn't just give us names of places. So why is the place called Sukkah? Because of the HaSukkos, because that's where Yaakov fashioned huts, tents for his animals. Frag Dor Chaim HaKadosh, the Heilig Or Chaim. We're naming a place in the Torah for the doghouse, for the dogs, for the cattle houses, for the cattle that's in the Mikneh. You're naming a place in the Chumash for all of history because Yaakov made tents for his animals. Yaakov was the first person in this world to not just take care of Hashem's creatures, not just to prevent Samar Lechayim and tend to the creatures that God gave him and graced him with. But Yaakov goes to the Feiner Shosidin and shows a Chiba Yasera. I love Hashem's creatures. I want to take care of them. That in the desert, I'm not just going to buy evil no bias. What am I going to do by evil no bias? Based on fano. No, I'm going to make them I'm going to go out and protect them and shield my livestock and cattle. I'm going to shield them from the shemesh and the shur. I'm going to go to the Shosadin. So the Fianias Eibishter sees his Bechir Shavosu, the Bnei Yaakov, and Yaakov, a whole place in the Torah was named Sukkos because Yaakov was Machadish to the world. Aliba Dor Chaim HaKadosh. Now, when you take care of Hashem's creatures, you got to go to the Don't just give them food to eat and water to drink. You have to do what? You have to go and show a Chiva Yasera and go to Maila and protect them. The Phineas Taiti, that's the Mida Keneged Mida. The Eibishter says, I'm going to give you a Yom Tov Sukkos Keneged Yaakov Vino L'Gnei Sukkos. We asked the Kasha, but you think you're not covered. You're not thinking Sukkos Mamish. Terence says, what are you thinking an Anik? Why did the Eibishter give us an Anik of it? Which Aliba the Chida, the Rav Chaim Kesufi, was a highlight of the Chiba Yasera. The Phineas Taiti was coming Mida Keneged Mida because Yaakov showed a Chiba Yasera to the Eibishter's creatures. Eibishter says, you take care of my creatures, my Nevrayim, and an Oifen of Chiba Yasera, more than just the basic food and drink to eat and drink respectively. The Mida Keneged Mida, years later, I'm going to go in and take out, give you an Anik covered. And I'm going to show the Chiba Yasera to also protect you from that. And now it's very geschmack. Who's the Baal Shita that says the Sukkos Mamish? That's Rabbi Akiva. Who is Rabbi Akiva? We know from the famous Arizal and Shar Gegulim and Shar Pergam Aleph, we know from his Likutei Torah Vichi and somebody on the Sfarim, Megal Lamukas, V'chuli, that Rabbi Akiva was the Gilgal of Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov introduced the concept of the Magnei HaSukkos. He made Sukkos Mamish. Rabbi Akiva was the Gilgal of Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov and Akiva, same Osios, Aver Yaakov, Osios Rabbi Akiva. They both had two wives. They both married a wife named Rochel. So many other correlations. It's Geshmak. Yaakov Avinu introduced to the world Aliba Dor Chaim, the concept of the Magnei HaSukkos. Rabbi Akiva's Gilgal says, you could talk on any covet. I held this kedusha even in the Sukkos Mamish, even in the Sukkos Mamish that Eibishter allows us to have. Rabbi Akiva says, I express the opinion of Sukkos Mamish because my predecessor, my reincarnated Rabbi Akiva, Yaakov Avinu, is the one to talk about Magnei Sukkos Mamish. But at least now we understand Chiba Yasera. And may let the Torah now to answer our first question. Back in HaSukkos, she's not telling me Mila Dagadata Ba'alma. That's Stam Mila Dagadata. Torah's telling me, I'm paskening in Sukkah Shita Rabbi Eliezer. You have to be thinking on a covet. But why do I have an on a covet? But if you go back to what I wrote in HaSukkos, that we have the whole Yontav of Sukkos, Keneged Yaakov Avinu, now you understand why did the Eibishter give us an on a covet? Because he's giving us a Yontav Keneged Yaakov Avinu, Hulu Mekneo HaSukkos, Yaakov Nasa. Because we named a place in the Chumash after the fact that Yaakov fashioned basic huts. The Torah, you tell me, Psak Halacha, you not tell me I got to know that's integral to understanding the Psak Halacha Liba, what he writes in Sukkah. You have to be thinking on that covenant. But Nichol asks, why did the Eibishter give us an covenant? Why did he? Like Rachayim Kusufi, go and show us the Chibi Seira. Kuva, because your predecessor, Yaakov Avinu, showed a Chibi Seira towards my from. I'm going to pay him back big time when I take the Yidden out of Mitzrayim. Mina Kenega years later. And I'm going to give them not just the food and water, I'm going to give them the Chibi Seira and the Hagana from the Shemesh and the Shah. Perhaps we can understand Pshat in the tour. Have a Gavaldige Geschmack a Leba de Geyanta for by side. Asman of Simcha Seino Kodesh, the girl, the hardest mitzvah in the Torah to keep Simcha from beginning to end. We should all be Zayich with Siyata Dishmai Merubim Yecheres. Have a Leba de Geschmack a Yanta B'Chag Sameach to one and all. And we'll see you in the base of Mikdash Shemetz Hashem this year. Tavshin Payalef. Have a Gavaldige Geschmack a Yanta.